Welcome. Today, we begin a quiet journey through a world of rare Japanese plants that rarely appear in garden guides, yet have the power to transform an ordinary yard into a garden with personality. These non-mainstream flora are not about flashy blooms or overwhelming size. They are subtle, intricate, and steeped in cultural heritage. As we step into this realm, let the leaves, textures, and quiet colors guide our senses into something truly unique. In the filtered light beneath a maple canopy, the Asarum nipponicum, Japanese wild ginger, rests close to the earth. Its heart-shaped leaves, marked with silver patterns, invite a closer look. This rare Japanese plant thrives in the shade, offering a secret beauty for a garden with personality. Its non-mainstream flora charm lies in the hidden flowers beneath the foliage, small, wine-colored cups that bloom close to the ground like whispered secrets. Beneath the steady drip of morning dew, we find Hakonokloa macra areala, the Japanese forest grass, flowing like a green and gold waterfall. Unlike typical ornamental grasses, this rare Japanese plant moves with the gentlest wind, creating a living ripple, perfect for a garden with personality. This non-mainstream flora brings motion to still spaces, catching sunlight and shadow in ways that make every moment in your garden a fleeting piece of art. Nestled between stones, the delicate blooms of Anopsis macrofila rise like tiny lanterns in summer. Native to cool mountain forests, this rare Japanese plant produces lilac-white flowers with drooping petals. It's a non-mainstream flora choice for gardeners who want elegance without predictability. In a garden with personality, it becomes a focal point in shady corners, turning overlooked spaces into places of quiet enchantment. The Fancy Japonica, spider's web unfurls leaves dusted with white speckles, as if touched by frost even in warm months. This rare Japanese plant stands tall and bold, perfect for a garden with personality that wants dram, but without overpowering the senses. A non-mainstream flora treasure, it works beautifully near paths, where visitors can brush past its broad, textured leaves and feel part of the garden's living tapestry. shaded woodland corner, the Triceratops hirta, Japanese toad lily, blooms with intricate, orchid-like petals speckled in purple. This rare Japanese plant offers its show late in the season, when most gardens fade. It's a non-mainstream floral masterpiece, thriving in places where others cannot. A garden with personality comes alive when surprises like these emerge, just when the year seems ready to rest. Against the dark wood of a fence, the coral red stems of Cornus kousa. Satomi catches the eye in winter. While most know this tree for its spring flowers, few consider its year-round appeal. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora jewel, offering changing moods through each season. In a garden with personality, it becomes a storyteller, marking time with color, bark, and leaf. The mossy floor glistens after rain, and tiny white blooms of Mitroac midica emerge. This rare Japanese plant thrives in damp, shaded spots, adding a lace-like texture to the undergrowth. A non-mainstream floral wonder, it creates a subtle floral carpet beneath shrubs and trees. In a garden with personality, these delicate ground dwellers speak softly, yet change the entire atmosphere. Clematis terniflora, the sweet autumn clematis drapes over an old stone wall. This rare Japanese plant produces clouds of fragrant white blooms in late summer, giving a non-mainstream flora twist. The climbing plants, in a garden with personality, it blurs boundaries between structure and growth, softening the edges of architecture with living lace. Shiny evergreen leaves of Sarcococca russifolia, Japanese sweetbox, hold clusters of fragrant winter flowers. This rare Japanese plant offers scent when little else does, a non-mainstream flora, choice that delights in the quietest season. In a garden with personality, such surprises keep the space alive year-round, drawing visitors closer to discover its understated magic. shifting shade of a bamboo grove, the Podophyllum plenthum, or Japanese mayapple, spreads its umbrella-like leaves wide. This rare Japanese plant has an almost tropical air, yet thrives in cooler, damp soil. A non-mainstream flora treasure, it offers both architectural form and seasonal flowers. Hidden beneath its canopy in a garden with personality, its bold foliage creates a lush, grounded presence. Along a gently winding path, the pale yellow blooms of Kerria japonica, plentiflora light up early spring. This rare Japanese plant, a double-flowered version of the Kerria, feels like captured sunlight, a non-mainstream flora gem. It brings cheer without overwhelming the senses. In a garden with personality, it marks the shift from winter to spring with quiet celebration. The twisted branches of Inkyantha's perilus hold clusters of small, white, bell-shaped flowers in spring, turning to crimson foliage in autumn. This rare Japanese plant is a four-season performer, a non-mainstream flora that keeps a garden with personality interesting year-round. Its layered branches cast dappled shadows that shift with the light, inviting contemplation. In the soft moss under a maple, Cyclamen heterophyllum sends up marbled leaves and delicate pink blooms in autumn. This rare Japanese plant thrives where others fade, making it a non-mainstream flora. The light in a garden with personality, it's like a whispered secret for those who visit after the summer crowd has gone. The fragrant blossoms of Edgeworthia chrysantha, Japanese paper bush, open in late winter, glowing creamy yellow against bare branches. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora choice that offers scent and warmth in the coldest months. In a garden with personality, it serves as a reminder that beauty does not wait for spring to arrive. Liriope muscari silver dragon spreads a carpet of striped leaves, punctuated by spikes of violet blooms in late summer. This rare Japanese plant, a non-mainstream flora ground cover, thrives in sun or shade. In a garden with personality, it brings texture, color, and resilience, uniting different areas of the space with subtle grace. In a quiet corner, the variegated leaves of Hosta sagai catch morning light, their broad shapes edged in gold. While Hostas are known worldwide, this rare Japanese plant variety stands apart as a non-mainstream flora star. In a garden with personality, its luminous edges create moments of calm beauty, even in deep shade. From spring to frost, the slender stems of Polygonatum odoratum, Japanese Solomon seal, arch gently, holding pairs of white bells beneath. This rare Japanese plant thrives in dappled light, a non-mainstream flora choice for rhythmic elegance. In a garden with personality, it guides the eye like a slow, graceful dance. With leaves shaped like tiny fans, the Maidenhair tree, Ginkgo biloba kaikai, offers a rare Japanese plant form with both history and elegance. This non-mainstream flora cultivar stays small and sculptural, making it perfect for a garden with personality, where each tree is chosen for meaning as well as beauty. As autumn approaches, the foliage of Itea virginica Henry's garnet, adapted into Japanese-style plantings, turns rich crimson. Though not traditionally Japanese, it has been embraced in rare Japanese plant palettes for its seasonal drama. This non-mainstream flora addition gives a garden with personality a painter's palette of shifting colors. Beneath the arching stems of bamboo, the Sporum uniflorum, Japanese fairy bells emerge in spring. Their greenish-yellow blooms sway lightly in the breeze. This rare Japanese plant brings a non-mainstream flora elegance to shaded spaces. In a garden with personality, they appear from nowhere, small treasures, waiting among the ferns and moss. In early spring, the deep purple blooms of Helleborus orientalis hybrids push through frosty soil. Carefully bred in Japan, this rare plant thrives in cool climates. A non-mainstream flora marvel, it offers color when little else dares. In a garden with personality, it signals resilience, beauty that meets the cold without fear. Daphne odora marginata holds glossy, variegated leaves year-round, but in late winter, it bursts into clusters of pink, fragrant flowers. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora jewel of scent and foliage in a garden with personality. Its perfume drifts on cold air, drawing visitors closer. The airy sprays of Thalictrum rockabroonian rise high in summer. Lavender clouds of delicate blooms crown its stems. This rare Japanese plant adds vertical grace, a non-mainstream flora choice. In a garden with personality, it gives lightness and movement, balance in solid forms. Podocarpus macrophyllus, the Buddhist pine, stands evergreen and dignified. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora staple for meditative spaces. In a garden with personality, its slender needles and upright form create serenity, a calm backdrop that lets seasonal flowers shine. Epimedium grandiflorum unfurls heart-shaped leaves in spring, edged with bronze. Tiny spurred flowers dance above. This rare Japanese plant thrives in shade and poor soil. A non-mainstream flora survivor with delicate charm. In a garden with personality, it feels quiet, gaps with subtle color. The golden threads of Chamaecyparis piscifera filifera aurea cascade in soft mounts, evergreen through all seasons. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora treasure for year-round color. In a garden with personality, it brings warmth to winter ... in contrast to summer's green abundance. In late summer, bold leaves of Colocasia esculina illustris emerge, dark, with lime green veins. Though tropical in appearance, this rare Japanese plant finds place in non-mainstream flora collect, ions. In a garden with personality, it stands as living sculpture. Camellia japonica Kamo Hanami blooms in early spring, intricate pink petals, streaked in white. This rare Japanese plant, a non-mainstream flora beauty, feels almost painted. In a garden with personality, it becomes a seasonal centerpiece, celebrated for flowers and for history. With arching stems covered in tiny white blossoms, Speria thunbergii glows in spring light. Known as Japanese meadow sweet, this rare plant is a non-mainstream flora classic. In a garden with personality, it signals renewal, a soft, foamy texture that frames pots and stone lanterns. Beneath the pergola, Wisteria floribunda macrobotries drapes long lavender racemes in late spring. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora showstopper. In a garden with personality, it becomes spectacle, fragrance and color, cascading like a floral waterfall. Small, tight clusters of Ilex crenata sky pencil rise like living columns. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora element of vertical structure. In a garden with personality, its neat form contrasts beautifully against flowing grasses or mossy stones. In autumn, the bronze leaves of Euphorbia japonica cast the afternoon sun, adding depth to the fading garden. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora find with unusual foliage. In a garden with personality, it bridges seasons, carrying warmth into cooler days. Cyadopitys verticillata, the Japanese umbrella pine, whorled needles, a slow-growing habit. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora treasure for patient gardeners. In a garden with personality, it stands like a quiet guardian, rooted deeply in time. Wide-striped leaves of Correx moroi as dance move like ribbons in the breeze. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora ground cover. It thrives in part shade. In a garden with personality, it lightens dark corners, softening the edges of stonework. In spring, the pale green flowers of Hosta plantaginea release sweet evening fragrance. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora favorite for sensory gardens. In a garden with personality, its perfume invites you to linger as the light fades. The fine textured leaves of Cryptomeria Japonica's second Sugi glow yellow in spring. Deepening to green, this rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora conifer with changing moods. In a garden with personality, it offers color through subtle seasonal shifts. Peony Shimadagen unfurls deep magenta blooms in late spring, a rare Japanese plant with historical roots. This non-mainstream flora choice brings regal drama. In a garden with personality, it is the single moment each year that demands celebration. The silverback leaves of Pilia peperomioides japonica catch stray light and shade. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora curiosity, adding unexpected texture. In a garden with personality, its brown leaves shine like living coins, scattered among moss. Leucoceptrum japonicum golden angel produces white flower spikes in late summer, golden foliage glowing against darker greens. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora highlight. In a garden with personality, it shines brightest when other plants begin to fade. In autumn, Lespedeza thunbergy cascades in arching sprays, covered with magenta blooms. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora beauty for late-season color. In a garden with personality, it's like a final flourish before winter's rest. The upright, sword-like leaves of iris and soda rise from the water's edge, opening into broad, flat blooms in summer. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora symbol of elegance. In a garden with personality, it connects water and land with grace. In spring, the leaves of Acer palmatum shishigashira, the lion's head maple, curl tightly, creating intricate texture. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream floral maple with character. In a garden with personality, it stands apart from more common varieties. Sassavachi, a low-growing bamboo, develops white leaf edges in winter as the green tissue dies back. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora that changes dramatically with the seasons. In a garden with personality, it offers winter interest without flowers. The papery seed pods of Lunaria annuavar, Japonica cast the sunlight in autumn, resembling silver coins. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora gem for dried arrangements. In a garden with personality, it continues to charm long after its blooms have faded. feathery plumes of Miscanthus sinensis morning light sway in late summer breezes. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora, ornamental grass with fine texture. In a garden with personality, it brings movement and sound to still afternoons. In early spring, the vivid blue blooms of Coriodalis flexuosa blue panda emerge from lacy foliage. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora rarity in color. In a garden with personality, it provides a burst of unexpected vibrancy. Ophiophagon planiscapus nigrescens grows as a carpet of deep black leaves. Setting off brighter plants, this rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora with bold contrast. In a garden with personality, it creates striking visual drama in small doses. The delicate blooms of Campanula punctata nod heavily, their bell-shaped flowers in shades of cream or pink. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora for shaded borders. In a garden with personality, it adds a gentle, almost storybook charm. Cuba japonica picturata offers broad leaves splashed with gold. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora evergreen that brightens dim areas. In a garden with personality, it serves as living art, each leaf a unique painting. The fine foliage of Asparagus cochinensis japonicus offers a cloud-like texture in the background. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora curiosity valued for its airy form. In a garden with personality, it creates softness behind bolder shapes. In spring, the tiny, star-shaped blooms of Cyanotics lucilia, naturalized in Japanese gardens, appear in drifts of blue. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora joy for early color. In a garden with personality, it paints the ground before leaves fully unfurl. Styrax japonicus, Japanese snow bell, bears fragrant white flowers, hanging like bells from its branches in early summer. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora tree of elegance. In a garden with personality, it creates a canopy of scent and shade. The pale green flowers of Hosta blue angel stand against powdery blue leaves, a rare Japanese plant variety admired by collectors. This non-mainstream flora Hosta brings scale and cool tones. In a garden with personality, it creates calm and heat. The slow-growing Pinus parviflora glauca, Japanese white pine, offers blue-tinged needles in graceful form. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora conifer that feels sculpted by wind. In a garden with personality, it anchors the space with quiet strength. In summer, the deep violet flowers of Gentiana scabra japonica open like jewels in the grass. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora choice for late-season color. In a garden with personality, it offers richness when other blooms fade. Buxus macrofila var, Japonica, Japanese boxwood, forms neat mounds of evergreen foliage. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora structural element. In a garden with personality, it shapes space without overpowering its neighbors. The airy seed heads of Pennisetum alopecuroides hamon glow in morning light. Though not traditionally Japanese, this rare Japanese plant hybrid is embraced as a non-mainstream flora for movement. In a garden with personality, it brings softness to hard edges. As autumn deepens, the ruby leaves of Nondina domestica fire power glow against stone and moss. This rare Japanese plant is a non-mainstream flora that offers color without flowers. In a garden with personality, it is the ember that keeps the space warm through winter. Thank you for walking through this living gallery of rare Japanese plants with us. Each one a non-mainstream flora, chosen to give a garden with personality, depth, character, and beauty beyond the obvious. If this journey inspired you to see your garden differently, please subscribe, like, and join us again for more stories from the world of Japanese garden design.